Hi, friends, and welcome back to Freedom to Nourish, the podcast where we challenge diet culture, explore what true wellness looks like, and make peace with food and our bodies, one conversation at a time. Today's episode is all about something I think a lot of people don't really recognize or understand: the difference between disordered eating and eating disorders. Because here's the thing: most people think you either have a full blown eating disorder or you have a perfectly healthy relationship with food. But the truth, there's a huge messy middle ground that so many people live in, and it can still deeply affect your physical health, your emotional health, and your quality of life. And in our diet culture saturated world, that messy middle is incredibly common. Now, I'd love to share with you so you learn from my mistakes. Diet culture and toxic wellness trends can make you feel like you're at war with your own body, constantly doubting yourself and chasing impossible standards. But it doesn't have to be that way. I'm Kathy Salata, a recovered anorexia survivor and educator, and this is Freedom to Nourish. Each week we'll have real conversations, share stories, and give you tools to finally make peace with food and respect your body. No more food rules, no more body shame, just the freedom to be yourself again. So before I had a full-blown eating disorder, I had disordered eating. And here are some things that in hindsight, I see were red flags. But at the time, I didn't know that. Example number one, I would go into a grocery store and I would read the lengthy nutrition panel on every single thing that I bought. I studied those nutrition label like I was going to be tested on it. Another thing that I noticed is when friends would invite me out to lunch, I would go, but I always need to know where we were going to go beforehand so I could choose the cleanest thing on that menu. And God forbid we chose another restaurant, that would screw me all up. So those are just some things that in hindsight, I recognize that food was taking up a larger part of my headspace in an uncomfortable, unhealthy way. So I hope that you learn from my little mistakes. And if you see those in you, recognize, hey, this might be a red flag. And I want to start by saying something important. Whether you're struggling with disordered eating or a diagnosed eating disorder, both deserve compassion and support. I beat myself up for my eating disorder, and it got me nowhere other than further in my eating disorder because of the shame and guilt that I felt. So if your eating habits, your thoughts about food, or your relationship with your body are stealing joy from your life, you don't need to wait until it's bad enough to get help. I'll say that again. You do not have to wait until it is bad enough. So let's start with disordered eating. Disordered eating is when your eating habits are irregular or harmful, but they don't meet the full criteria in a diagnosed eating disorder. And honestly, some of these behaviors are so normalized in our culture, they fly under the radar. Things like chronic dieting, always chasing that hope, always chasing the next plan, the next meal plan, the next cleanse, next reset. You're always chasing for that. Skipping meals to save up for a big dinner night out. Exercising to burn off what you ate. Labeling food as good or bad. Feeling shame after eating certain foods. The list goes on. Emotional eating is the only way that you cope with stress. These aren't harmless quirks. They can lead to nutrition deficiencies, low energy, poor mental health. And for so many people, they're the first step toward a full-blown eating disorder. Now, eating disorders are different. They are diagnosable mental health conditions recognized in the DSM-5. The main types, of course, we've heard of anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder. Something that I've seen very common in 2025 is ARFID, which is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, where there's just certain foods, they almost have a phobia towards, or OSFED, which is so common, which is other specified feeding or eating disorders. So, eating disorders have specific medical and psychological criteria that are met. They're not extreme diets, they are serious, complex mental health conditions that often require a team approach to treatment. Medical providers, therapists, dietitians, and support systems. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between disordered eating and eating disorders. If I were going to put them side by side, here's what it would look like. Diagnosis. Disordered eating doesn't have one, eating disorders do. However, in modern times, this is 2025 right now, there's something called orthorexia. Orthorexia is clean eating on steroids. Think of that. And although it's not in the DSM 5, I do think it's going to be in future diagnostic statistical manuals because it's making such an impact on one's life. If you're an ultra clean eater, think about how it's impacting your life physically, socially, and mentally. Severity of the eating disorder. Disordered eating may be intermittent. It could be situational. It could be during the holidays or when you're under a tremendous amount of stress. Eating disorders 24/7. And then the recognition. Disordered eating is often ignored and in our culture, sometimes even praised. Whereas eating disorders are going to be recognized more likely as a mental and medical issue. I can remember the day when people would give me so many compliments. You look so great. You have such willpower, Kathy. And then my weight got so low. Kathy, are you okay? That disordered eating changed to an eating disorder and it was recognized in just one day. So let's talk about why it matters. Why do we need to know about disordered eating and eating disorder? So many people think, well, I don't have an eating disorder. This isn't serious. But that's dangerous thinking. Eating disorders often start as disordered eating. The earlier you notice the warning signs, the better the chances for full recovery. And even if you never meet the full diagnostic criteria, living with food rules, guilt, shame, and body obsession robs you of so much life. So let's take this opportunity to recognize it in ourselves and others. And let's do a little bit of myth busting here. Myth number one, if I'm not underweight, it's not an eating disorder. Oh my goodness. People of all body sizes can have eating disorders. Weight is not the determining factor. Myth number two, it's only serious if you're hospitalized. Truth is, you don't need to be on death's door for it to be valid, worthy of treatment. Emotional pain is just as real as physical complications. And let's do a little bit of self reflecting. If you're listening and wonder, where do I fall in all of this? Here's a few questions that you can ask yourself today. One, do I think about food, weight, exercise constantly? Two, do these thoughts interfere with my relationships, my mood, my energy? Number three, would I feel anxious or guilty if I broke my food rules? If you're nodding yes to any of these, it may be worth talking to a professional. You deserve a relationship with food that's free, peaceful, and nourishing. And I want to leave you with this. You don't need to earn your worth through your weight, your diet, your discipline, because you're worthy now, today, as you are. I invite, if you or someone you love is struggling, please reach out for help. There's so many resources available to you online. The National Eating Disorder Association has a helpline. And I thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend or leave a review so other people can listen to Freedom to Nourish. But until next time, let's keep rejecting diet culture and embracing the messy, beautiful human way of nourishing ourselves, our body, our mind, and our soul. Thank you. If you're ready to step into a kinder, fuller life, subscribe now and join me each week for Freedom to Nourish. Because your body deserves respect, your story deserves to be heard, and you deserve to live fully right now.